Do you remember the first time you ever ran in a super shoe? I do. And that super shoe was this, the Nike Vaporfly 4% Flyknit actually. And I got this in October 2018. And I had been trying for a long time, like 10 months to get a pair of these, the original Vaporfly 4%. But these shoes were so hard to get in 2017 into 2018 that it makes the Alpha Fly 3 lottery that we had this year in 2024 look like the easiest thing in the world. You just could not get a pair of Vaporfly 4%s. But when the Flyknit edition released in October of 2018, the availability went up quite a bit. Now, to understand why this shoe was so important to me and so cool to me, we need to go way back, like way back to 1989. This shoe, the Nike The Waffle Racer from 1989, though this could have been from 1988. I'm not really sure which year I had this, but I had this shoe. Now, this was my junior high and high school shoe. I didn't run track, I didn't run cross country. I just thought this was one of the coolest looking shoes I had ever seen, and I just wore it as my sort of casual school sneaker. And I had a few colorways of this, but I love this shoe. I still love this silhouette, and I actually prefer this late 80s edition of the Waffle Racer silhouette over the vintage ones, the ones that you've seen Nike re-release or J. Crew put out. I love the way this shoe looks. But fast forward into 1999, and the next Nike shoe that really resonated with me was this shoe, the Nike Air Kukini. Now, the 90s were a little different, and this was one of the coolest shoes to me in the late 90s. Interestingly, this shoe launched around some of the other very famous Air Maxes, some that are still popular today, though this is more of a collector's thing now. But back in 1999, I loved this shoe, and I ran in this shoe. I also wore it casually. I thought this was a great shoe. Interestingly, though, this shoe was a year before this shoe, the Nike Air Presto. And I think if you were around in the early 2000s, even into the early 2000 teens, you remember the Nike Prestos because they were everywhere. But this was a shoe that I actually ran in as well. You're beginning to see a thread here that I like the more minimalist shoes. I've always liked to feel the ground when I run. But back in 1999, 2000, 2001, I was primarily racing skateboards and snowboards, so running to me was just sort of a cross-training thing. It wasn't really my main focus. And as I said, by the late 2000s, 2009, 10, 11-ish, that was the peak of the barefoot thing. I was a barefoot runner. I was really into barefoot stuff. And it wasn't until this shoe in 2015 that it got me to stop running only in barefoot shoes or some type of barefoot type shoe. And the Flyknit Racer, specifically the multicolor 2, I missed the 1. The 2 was the one that I got in 2015. I loved this shoe. I loved how this shoe looked. I loved how it felt. It felt really cool. This was the era of Nike Flyknit that was just so amazing. This era was just so good for all of the different Flyknits that we had and the shoes. They felt really sort of next level at the time. But the Flyknit Racer was an excellent, excellent shoe. I ran in it. I wore it casually. I ran a bunch of these into the ground. And at the same time, I was running in this shoe. I was running in a lot of Adidas Adioses. I was running in Nike Streaks. The Streak 6 here was not my first streak, but this is the one that I really remember. Also, this colorway was the one that launched around the Vaporfly 4% original colorway, so I thought this was really cool. If I couldn't get a 4%, I could at least get a Streak 6 in this colorway. I love this shoe. I ran in Streaks a ton. But in 2017, I got this shoe, the Lunar Epic Low Flyknit. And this shoe at the time really got me interested in tech in running shoes. I had been a runner. I had run because I love to run, but this shoe really got me focused on running shoe tech because the Lunarlon foam, the pistons that were designed into the midsole, or really the outsole, the Flyknit upper, which reminded me of my beloved Flyknit Racer. I just thought this shoe was everything. I thought you couldn't get cooler or more tech than this shoe. And it was something that I spent quite a bit of time running in. But I was also running in this shoe, the Adidas Boston. This is the 7. I ran in the 6s, the 7s, 8, and 9s. I love the Boston series. I was also running a lot in this shoe, the Nike Streak LT. This is LT4, but I ran a lot in Streaks. Specifically in 2017 and 18, I ran a lot in Streak LTs. I would say 50% of my running was probably done in Streak LTs, road running, track running, really anything I was doing, I was running in these shoes. I love these shoes. I ran through a ton of them because they were very fragile. They were essentially track spikes for the road. They did not last very long, but they felt so, so good. And by 2018, my cushy trainer was this, the Peg 35. I had been running in pegs for a while, but this was the first one that really resonated with me. And oddly, I was also running in this shoe, the On Cloud X, the original Cloud X, the version 1. And why was I running it on in 2017, 2018? Well, it's because primarily back then I was still a cyclist and I was into Swiss everything. Swiss frames, Swiss wheels, Swiss bearings, Swiss shoes. If it was Swiss and cycling related, I loved it. And that's how I ran across these shoes, the On Clouds. And looking at this shoe, it's kind of funny because I love this shoe and I know the tech in there, the speed board that's in that shoe. I know how that shoe felt and it's exactly why people didn't like On, but that's why I liked On. But after that shoe, everything went downhill for the brand and we're where we are at now with On. But the original On Cloud was a great, great shoe. So that brings me back here to the Vaporfly 4% Flyknit, which I got in October 2018. Now, interestingly, about a month after I got these, I actually got a pair of these, the original Vaporfly 4% from a friend of a friend. Now, the thing about the Vaporfly 4% was that the outsole was very, very fragile, and it was designed in a way that put the foam, the ZoomX foam, which was also very fragile at the time. The ZoomX that we had in 2017-18 was not the ZoomX foam that we have now in 2024. The ZoomX foam back then was very, very fragile, and the outsole on the shoe really tore up quickly, as you can see here. The wear on the 4% was absolutely insane, and if you ever ran in them, you remember how much you tore them up. So people treated them as very precious because they were hard to get, they were expensive, but the foam just didn't last long. When Nike said that the shoe was going to last for about 100, 120 miles of good quality racing, they really meant it back then. That's not really true anymore, but back then it really did matter. Now, my first run in these shoes was actually October 26, 2018. I went back to my training log and found that date, found the notes around this run, and I still vividly remember it. I remember going out for what at the time I called a fartlek. I was just learning about structured training and running. I was very familiar with it as a cyclist, and I was bringing that methodology into running. So my workout for this Friday the 26th was a fartlek. I was going to do 1 minute fast, which for me at the time was running basically as fast as I could, and then 3 minutes easy, so kind of a jog. Now, I had no idea what I was doing. That's a reasonable fartlek. You know, do that 15 times over maybe an hour, hour and 20-minute run, and you're good to go. Again, I really had no idea what I was doing back then. But the notes around this, and I still really remember that first time I picked up speed and really got going. As you saw from my shoe history, I was running in a lot of lower profile traditional racing flats, nothing with a lot of cushion other than the Lunar Epic, but that was a very different type of cushion. I remember the feel of ZoomX with the plate and the bounce and the energy return. The shoe felt like unlike anything I'd ever run in. It was really, really remarkable. And the notes that I have in my training log from that time have a lot of exclamation points, have a lot of, this shoe's amazing, this shoe's going to change everything, this shoe is incredible. And it was. It really was. It still, to this day, leaves an impression on me. And it's one I constantly revisit because super shoes back then were special. And I think super shoes now in 2024 have become a little less special. So what am I actually saying here? Am I saying that we should all go back to basic shoes or running shoe tech is no good? No, I love running shoe tech. In fact, I run a YouTube channel about running shoe tech. That's what you're watching. Obviously, I love this stuff. But I think running shoe tech now is so integrated in every shoe. Every single shoe from every manufacturer has some level of tech. It's not just the top tier super shoes. It's the super trainers, the performance trainers, the max cushion rockered hyper shoes, even daily trainers. The majority of them have some sort of cutting edge tech. And for the most part, that stuff's great. All that stuff's good. But kind of what I'm beginning to realize is that having a super shoe feel really special is something that's quite important. Now, this year, 2024, has been a bit of a strange year for me because I'm actually not racing at all this year. The past, I would say 5 years have really been dominated by 1 or 2 races that year, a marathon or half marathon. And my training and my running has really been focused around those things. This year, I'm not doing that. I've done a lot for the channel. I've done a lot for what I'm interested in. And right now I'm working on speed stuff because that's what I'm interested in. But that's given me an opportunity to spend, a bunch of time in super shoes earlier this year, then not run in super shoes at all, and now begin to sort of only use super shoes or a plated shoe for very key workouts to get that feeling back of the specialness of a super shoe. Now, when I used to put on a pair of Vaporflies for many years, because Vaporflies were really the only super shoe that mattered for a long time. That's not necessarily the case now, but for a long time it was. I would get butterflies. I knew I was going to have an amazing run. But over the past couple of years, that has gone away. Running in Vaporflies is still amazing. I know I'm going to do a good workout. It's going to be good work, or I'm going to have a good race, but it's not that butterflies. It's not that exciting thing. And recently, because I've been running a lot in track spikes, super spikes in particular, I really noticed that when I put on those spikes, it's like I get that feeling I used to get with super shoes. They feel special. They feel like, oh my God, what am I about to do in this shoe? They feel really remarkable. Something I just don't have in road super shoes, but a feeling that in my workouts and my weekly running, really, I'm finding it matters quite a bit, because when I'm in my just trainers, my daily trainers, I'm getting the easy runs in. I'm remembering how, just basic running feels. And then I get to the track and I'll do a workout. I'll do a warm up in the daily trainers. Then I'll switch to the spikes, do the work, and then I'll go back to the daily trainers, and you really, really feel that difference. You really feel the contrast in the shoes. And it's really remarkable. It's not only remarkable mentally, how you prepare to run in that spike or that super shoe, but the performance that comes from that, from doing all this work throughout the week in a daily trainer and then putting on a pair of spikes or super shoes and nailing the workout, it's really remarkable. And I'm kind of thinking that's how it should be. Not every run needs to have all of the tech, the latest, greatest, the most technical shoe on your foot. If that's what gets you out the door, that's great. You do you. But what I'm trying to say here is, I think there is a place for more basic shoes, and there is a place for doing the majority of your running in a more basic shoe, so that when you do put on those ultra tech shoes, whether they're a super trainer or a super shoe, you really, really feel the difference. Not only mentally, you prepare yourself to have a better workout or a faster run or a more engaging run, but also biomechanically, you can feel like the difference in your stride, in your mechanics. All that work you've done in that more basic trainer now is being optimized in that super trainer or super shoe, and I think that's a really, really valuable thing. Here's my challenge to anyone watching this video. For the next 2 weeks, look at your rotation and take out all of the super tech shoes, all the super shoes, all the super trainers, all the performance trainers, all the max stack, rockered, whatever trainers, and just keep your most basic daily trainer and maybe your next most basic shoe. Now, if you're a runner who doesn't have those shoes anymore, maybe this is a reason to go buy one of those shoes, but stick to your 2 most basic shoes in your rotation. Put all the other ones aside just for 2 weeks. Now do every run, do your easy runs, do your workouts, do everything in those basic shoes. But at the end of the 2 weeks, set a hard workout or a time trial in your favorite pair of super shoes, and do that workout after 2 weeks of not running at all in any real tech shoe in those super shoes. And I promise you, you're going to notice a huge difference, and it's probably going to blow your mind just how different it feels. Now, it's not going to feel like the first time you ran in them, but it's going to feel remarkably different, and you're going to realize how special those shoes are and just how fun they are to run in and what performance you're actually getting. As always with this stuff, let me know in the comments your thoughts on this. If you do this challenge, definitely come back here after the 2 weeks. Let me know how it felt. I really am curious. This is something I recently did, and it really blew my mind just how different this super shoe felt. It was really, really remarkable. I really enjoyed it, which is why I'm presenting it here on the channel. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you like this content, consider subscribing. If you're already subscribed, consider joining. It helps supporting me what I do on this channel. If neither one of those options are great, leave a like, comment, helps this channel grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.